Looking forward to it.
Welcome to Deborah Kobylt Live.
Hey, Kurt, thanks so much for that introduction. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on Deborah Kobylt Live, broadcasting from my kitchen, which seems to be the norm these days. Joining me now in studio is, oh my gosh, say your name for me.
Tasia, Fantasia.
Tasia Valenza. Thank you so much. I'm real excited to have you. I was going to say in studio, but in your studio with us today. Tasia, you are the co-creator of Give Great Voice. I love that. The founder of Give Great Voice. We're going to have you talk about what that is. You did a TED Talk on it, which is really fascinating. And you're the co-founder of an app called Haven, which I have been using all week, and I'll explain why as well. You're also an actress well known for your work on All My Children. You are the voice of Poison Ivy in the Arkham games, in addition to the to the Shakti, is that it? In the Clone.
Shakti, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In the Clone Wars. I mean, look, you're a pretty well-known person for your voice, for your acting, and now for what you do to kind of create some calm. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure and my honor. I really am delighted to be with you.
You know, in this time when a lot of people are not so calm and they're stressing out over being isolated, over worrying or concern if they're going to perhaps come down or catch the coronavirus, for family members who may not be on the same page in terms of distancing. What do you say to them? Because you talk a lot about your voice and how to portray what you want with your voice. What do you say?
That's a good question, and there's a lot to dig into, but you know, Give Great Voice is the concept of thinking like a voiceover actor, which is the lens that I've lived with all my life. Thinking like a voiceover actor in your own life so you can play your professional and personal roles more successfully. And so what does that mean? That means that as a voiceover actor, as you mentioned, I played Poison Ivy and all these different roles. So all I ever do is break down what the character is, who am I speaking to, what do I want, and how does my voice support that intention? So I'll give you an example, which I did in the TEDx talk. Poison Ivy, I understand who she is. She's a seductress and she's a villainous. But in order to get what she wants, that seduction quality, and she's animated, so I'm not even able to use my body, her voice has to be that seductive. So my intention is to seduce, so my voice follows that intention, right? So I wouldn't get Batman to come close to me if I said, Batman, come over here, right? Because it's not so much the words. It's like, Batman, come over here. He's going to be much more interested in approaching me. So how do we translate that into our real lives?
I love that.
Right? It's that simple. It's like, I do this all day long. I break down characters. I get the description. The writer says, she's a mom. She's calm. She's loving. She's a CEO. She's authoritative. She's a news reporter. She's trustworthy, you know, as yourself. This is what my lens of 35 years of understanding. The same ideas, I started realizing, wow, you know, in my real life, I'm many roles, just as you are. I call it the magnificent, marvelous me map, because most of us don't own the fact that we're so multifaceted. So you're a mom, and you're a wife, and you're a reporter, and you're an interviewer, and you're a friend, and you're a daughter, and you're a sister, just as we all are. How we play these roles, how we feel in those roles, meaning how I speak to my children, how I'm in relation to my husband, we feel either successful or not. So every time I have an engagement with my teenagers where I bombed and there was tension and frustration and one of us walked out, you know, whether I won and they picked up their clothes, I feel less successful if there was, if we were angry with each other. So it really comes down to understanding the 4 questions that we can ask in every role, whether that's the mother, friend, sister, employee. Who am I? As the role, who am I speaking to? What do I want? Meaning, how can I be successful, but ultimately, how can we have the success of both sides? And how does my voice support that intention?
What do you do, okay, if you're doing your best with your voice and trying to be calm, But the other side, whether it's, let's say, myself or the other person, or same with you, whether it's you or the person you're talking to, just don't see eye to eye. For example, I was talking to someone and they're having a lot of stress in their home about how to deal with the coronavirus, right? Some people are taking it very, very seriously and they're doing the social distancing, and other people, and it's the person that she lives with, it's her spouse, is coming and going and it's just doing what they want and it's like, wait a minute. And I said, I don't know what you do in that case. Move out. What do you do? How do you get across what it is that you want to say in these stressful times, and sort of with meaning in your voice?
That's a great question. A lot of times, when we feel that resistance and anger, it's really hard to come with empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
So if we can take a step back and consider, like, why are they, where are they coming from, and actually say to them, as opposed to just coming in with, how can you not? And everybody's, this is ridiculous. Once we come in with the righteousness of that we're right, even if we really believe we are, if we can engage with them and come with a little understanding, saying, it must be really difficult for you to all of a sudden not be able to see your friends, or you feel trapped. And I can really understand how your life must feel completely different. And maybe for you, it's even harder because of A, B, and C, your background, and you're used to, being able to do what you want, play tennis. My husband's had to give up all the things that give him joy, which has been really hard for him. And I see, how anxious it makes him and how depressed. So if I say to him, you can't play tennis, you just can't, because it's very different than I say, it must be really hard for you to give that tennis up. And I so appreciate that you're taking it seriously, because you care about our family and you care about you, because you could definitely, you're definitely in the category of over, 60, that you would be more susceptible. Thank you so much. And I know it's hard for you, and I know you don't want to, but if you could, because you care about us and I care about you, that's very different than the reactive, like, you have to do it, everybody's doing it, toe the line. And believe me, it's very difficult. But if you can, whenever you can come to them with a little bit of, I understand where you're coming from and I can join you first, people can receive that a lot better in the tone and the words. And ultimately, we all want to be understood. We just want to feel understood, that we're not wrong, but that, but necessarily then it's called compromise to your advantage. Nobody wins. My dad used to say that. In a compromise to your advantage situation, you're not necessarily getting to do what you want. I'm not necessarily getting to do all of what you want, but we both win a little bit. I think, those are some skill sets that have seemed to work and hopefully sound logical.
Well, I mean, and again, you really lay this out in your TED Talk and also your app. Let's go through a little bit Haven, which is very calming to me. Let's tell our viewers and our listeners, what is Haven? Why did you even want to be the co-founder of Haven? What is this?
So Haven is a guided affirmation meditation app that I was fortunate enough to become co-founder of. And part of that is because, again, there were many meditation apps that I listened to that I love the message, but being a voiceover artist, I didn't love the messenger, so to speak, that,
Right.
It's not even as much all the time as the words we say, but again, the intention of how we say it. And so with Haven, I really wanted to be able to create a space of not only a beautiful guided meditation, but one that takes affirmations, which are known to be incredibly helpful for rewiring the mind. But instead of the standard, like, I love myself and I believe in myself, when we can do it in a meditative state, which we can get to more of the back of the brain, the old part, the self-hypnosis, and then say an affirmation, we're much more likely to receive it and accept it, as opposed to saying, I love myself, and then, the frontal part of us, that the critic says, no, you don't, or, I am beautiful. No, you're not. Which
Can you
we
give me a solid example of that? Because you're right. Like, you're so right. A lot of times you go to a talk and somebody will say, come on, repeat after me. I'm amazing. I'm beautiful. It's like, okay, I'm about to leave. Go back. You need to, right? You need to feel it inside. But
Right.
You're actually very good at that, because the minute I turned it on, I mean, it spoke to me, actually. So tell me a little bit about how you help to calm a person without speaking to them and telling them what to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, I mean, truthfully, when I made the app, it was interesting. The first minute is sharing a little bit of a juicy nugget about they're broken down into different masteries: confidence, stress reduction, depression, all to support. So there's a minute of information, and then we go into diaphragmatic breathing, and that alone, deep
That'll
belly
get you.
breathing,
Mhm.
is so huge. If you can take 3 deep breaths at a moment when anxiety is starting to spin, you can literally tap into your biology, which is the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part that really nice calming, versus when we're in fight or flight mode and we feel our breath starting to get, either we're getting afraid or angry or both. We're literally tapping biology of the fight or flight response, which is a physiological, biochemical, our heartbeat races.
Right.
And
True.
so we can literally capture that feeling and actually reduce the stress through the active breathing and this deep belly breath, which is a little bit different than the lung breath. It's when we breathe in, our belly expands, and when we breathe out, our belly deflates. And the longer you breathe out, you're literally releasing those calming hormones. So things that, they always say take 3 deep breaths, but it literally does work when you do it in this fashion, because you're literally tapping into that biology. And the act of sometimes focusing on your breath can take your spinning thoughts for a moment out, and you can literally cut them off, because now it's like, oh, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths, and you're literally calming yourself. And then once you're in that nice relaxed state, your brain can receive this rewiring and this I think of our brains as computer programs, and most of us are running on 40-year-old programs, depending on how old you are, because we're really programmed from 0 to 7. That's when we take in the information, and that runs most of our brain. Part of us that, how our parents treated us, how they treated each other. And Lord knows I'm a parent of 3, and I definitely know there could things I could have done better, but we take in that information and that becomes our programming. And, that's the part that when we counteract by getting into a lovely meditative state and then saying, I love myself, I believe in myself, I forgive myself, we can receive it. And then I call it start rewiring, that using a software update for our computer program. Mm-hmm. And then one more analogy I'll share is that speaking the language of self-love, which is what I call it, is very foreign to most people.
Well, because a lot of people will say, what do you mean self-love? Like, how do I love myself? They don't quite understand that concept. Can you very briefly describe what is self-love?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we think, oh, I love myself. But, most of us, again, to say the words aloud, I am amazing and I love myself. Oh my God, she's so cocky. She's so arrogant. But true self-love is both self-compassion, having a really rough day. I wish I hadn't said that. I forgive myself, as opposed to you're an idiot, you're so stupid, you've done it again, how could you? A lot of this programming that is the critic that many of us live with, as opposed to the 3-year-old that lives inside of us, how we would talk to our best friends, how we would talk to our little children, the kindness that we would share, both in, amazing day, and you're amazing and you're wonderful and you're confident, that you would say. Very few of us seem to have this notion that we can give this to ourselves, that I am worthy. It really comes down to I am lovable and I am worthy.
Look, at a time like this, when people really are stressed, they've got their kids at home and they're doing their best. People are trying so hard to make sure their kids stay on a schedule or help them to stay on a schedule. And they're working from home, perhaps side by side with their spouse. It can be very stressful. I mean, you can look at it different ways, right? You can also look at it as a blessing. You can find blessings in those moments, but for the most part, people are wearing down.
Yes.
What is one takeaway? Because for me, with all that you do, the biggest takeaway is the breathing. Because the moment you breathe, you can take in, you quiet your thoughts, right? I mean, what would you say is the big takeaway during this very stressful time?
That's a lot to, I'd love to come up pausing, like you said,
Yeah.
having that awareness to like reflect on, and compassion, empathy and compassion, that everybody in the house feels this way.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own lens of what they've had to sacrifice in order to make this work.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So having that compassion and a little bit of empathy to remind ourselves in that moment, before we are about to say something, to take a breath and say, what is my intention in this moment? Would it be to have a little bit more harmony, or would it be to create more dissension? Maybe I'll just breathe and say something kind to myself first and say, okay, we've got this. And then I'll just lilt up when I speak to my husband a little bit and say, honey, can you please pick up the socks or make the kids the food, when, as I mentioned before, as opposed to could you please, all that energy. If we could just remember that tone and intent has a remarkable outcome, and it's not the words so much that we say, but how we say them. And if we can remember, have compassion for ourselves and then compassion for our family and those that we love, it will create a lot more unity and a lot more ways to come together than bring us apart.
You often said as well, in a way, it's almost like you should be a voiceover actor, right? What part are you looking to play here? You're the part of the mom right now. And what is it that you're trying to portray? I thought that was a great visual. Play the part like a voiceover actor, correct? But you say it better than I do.
No, I love it. It's really true. It's like, if you can, you ask the question. So as a mother, I play soccer mom. My intention as a mother is usually to love and support my children. But in reactive mode, that goes out the window a lot. We're mostly triggered the most by, we can put on our roles and present our best selves out in the world a lot easier than with our family, because the mask comes down, we love each other, and there's also the trigger points of the toothpaste in the wrong section. It's not just the toothpaste, but it's 10 years of the toothpaste in the wrong section. So it usually will trigger us, but it's that understanding again, like almost faking it till you make it, to see the big picture, to say, okay, I know that if I speak with a tone, my children know already. If I say, Asher, the train has left the station. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say afterwards. His energy has now reflected, I'm in trouble. So his defense mode has gone out. So it's literally just kind of, again, thinking, okay, how can I calm myself? And then, just fake it in terms of being the actor to say, Asher, that tone and is going to completely be received differently. Could you A, B, or C? Then Asher, it's as soon as I say it, right? We're so reactive, especially our family members.
Right.
In my kids' situation, there's been a lot of the push-pull. They're staying up later. I say, you still have to get to bed at a certain time. And someone said to me again, would you rather be right, or would you rather have a great relationship with your kids?
Both.
I know, right? Exactly.
A little of both. Well, I know in my household, right? This is a very great example. I will call them. We have a little intercom, right? And I'll call them and say, dinner. I get nothing. Dinner. Nothing. Third time. Dinner. Nothing. Right. Oh, that's it. I march to the bottom of the stairs and I'm like, dinner. And I'm so like, why are you always screaming? And I'm thinking, I can't win. I try.
I said it nicely, right? No,
I really tried. I swear to you, I would try, and then the second time, and then by the time I get to the bottom of the stairs, it's like, ugh. So yeah, I mean, you just have to take a pause, But I think that's common. I really, really do. I have a question about you.
Yeah.
You said you weren't always like this, okay? Like during the days when you were acting on All of My Children and more stressful times, how did you evolve into the person you are today?
A lot of pain, a lot of growth, a lot of therapy, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of bumps in the road. I mean, all that I share is because I have failed miserably in so many areas of my life, and use that opportunity to grow and learn and pick myself back up and learn again. And so when I was a teenager and I had a rather dysfunctional background, my father, actually, I give so much credit. He saw me at 15 going downhill quickly, and even though my trajectory of my success as a voiceover artist, and I was an actress back then, was going up, he saw, and he had been to therapy in the 60s, he was an actor. So again, behaviorist. Actors have the benefit of being a behaviorist. So they look at human nature and why we do the things we do much more than other professions, especially,
Very true.
Right. So
Yeah.
he had that insight to see, sweetheart, you're in trouble and I want you to go to therapy. So at 15, I had the blessing of him helping me to start examining myself and to see why I did the things I did. And forevermore, I have looked and examined and tried to own, and then tried to see, okay, a lot of this life that I'm leading is not what's happening to me now, but what happens in my brain and triggers it, and understand it and use that to grow. And now to be able to share what I've learned with others, so that I can incorporate it into this give great voice idea that we can be in more, we can have more compassion and more connection by using our voice. And during this time of social distancing, it's more imperative than ever.
It really is. I'm telling you. I mean, I have tried very hard to look at it as an opportunity, whether with, friends and just Zoom time with them, or the people in my household, even if I make them stay 6 feet away from me. I've been very diligent about it, because I don't want to get this thing. I don't want to give it to anybody else. I'm taking it quite seriously. So, but I have been seeing the blessings in it, because it's allowed people to pause a little bit. As hard as it is for us as Americans to just take a pause, there are blessings in everything, right?
Absolutely. And I oftentimes, I say that we're human doings more than human beings in America. We're just like doing, and, we're go, 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 and busy, we're always busy. And this has been a forced reset that, someone said to me the other day, I thought it was really funny. There's no FOMO right now. Nobody's missing out because
it's so true. I've never, I've led that life where I'm always on the go. In fact, just by the nature of being a journalist, and if you're on the news every night, you're always on the go. But to try to take a step back is so healthy. We all know that. Also, let me just talk a little bit about poison ivy and General Shakti. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, poison ivy is such legendary. Can you do a voice for me? Or is that like, if I put you on the spot, is that hard for you to do?
Oh no, I was sharing that a little bit before. She's, and again, many actresses have played her. I got to play her in the Arkham games and some others, but yeah, poison ivy is all about seduction. And again, she just wants to get you close enough, but her motive is to kiss you and then kill you. So she's really, she's got that, the juxtaposition of that she wants to bring you close, but here's the thing, she's really multifaceted. She's not just a villainess, she's the mother of nature. And so she's trying to protect her babies, which are her plants. So, when you look at characters, again, to give them life and multi-dimension, you want to see, why do they do the things they do? Because most, villains don't think of themselves. Most people that do things that even, are quite awful, they justify it in their minds. They don't think of themselves, I'm a bad guy. And again, when you play a role, you want to look at what makes them fully dimensional. And she was a Shiro actually in Arkham in the third game, because she sacrificed herself for Gotham and her plan. So, people think of, what you play, when you play, how do you give life? And the greatest actors in the world are the ones that you think that they're, you could play this such one way, and they give so much more life to them. That's why a lot of the times the villains we love to hate, because they bring so much more to the party than ha ha ha, and that's what makes for a good actor. And also, again, in our lives, when we think, what is my intention? Every time you think, before you're getting ready for an interview, before you're getting ready to meet a client, before you're getting ready to say something stressful that will create tension, what is my intention, and how will my voice follow that intention? And you can start playing with your voice and thinking of it like an instrument. You can, your favorite, we all have imitated our favorite characters at one time or another, right? For animation, that's the joy that we can tap into and be voiceover actors in our own life. To play, use that.
My favorite one is to, smile as you're making a phone call. Hi, how are you? Of course, when I do that to my kids, they're like, Mom, you don't sound the same. What's happening? Hi, man. I'm just, but that's actually a good start, right? To however it is that whatever you're trying to portray.
Yes.
I try that one, the smile. Because
Smile.
how could you be in a bad mood or angry if you're smiling as you're talking to someone, right?
It's true. And there's a technique that salespeople use that if you, sometimes they'll put a picture of or somebody they love, whether it be their dog or their child, while they're on the phone, and it gives them the impetus to literally smile at something as opposed to just, again, manufacturing. I'm smiling, but to really have something that, inspires that to look at. So that's a technique. But again, when you smile, and very much my clients, and I use that as an example in the TEDx talk, when you smile, the read comes out differently. The read, whatever the read. So the same.
It does. Yeah.
Right? When you do that. And then the last thing, of course, is BEAD, right? To play the courageous, confident candidate, I use that acronym BEAD. And BEAD goes into breathing, empowering, affirming, and dress. So even now when we're home and we can stay in our jammies all the time, but we're really trying to figure out how to structure ourselves to go to work. Sometimes, again, literally getting dressed, making your bed, creating some structure, and then, giving yourself some of those breaths, the empowering. I referenced Amy Cuddy's TED Talk, which is very famous for the power poses, where you can stand in the mirror for 2 minutes and let your biology affect your head. That actually releases testosterone and lowers cortisol just by standing in the mirror like a Superman pose or Wonder Woman for 2 minutes.
Hey, I'll do that. I like that. Just kind of stand like this and naked. Okay, are we supposed to be naked or not naked? Because
that's again, how powerful do you feel?
Right? How good do I feel that I look that day? So depending on the day, I may or may not have my my clothes on. But just to coin something else that you said Haven in particular brings connection, comfort, compassion during these challenging times. I mean, to coin what you were telling me earlier. And I just think that's really important, guys, out there, because I know I've been struggling a little bit, and friends of mine have been struggling. And
I think everybody's struggling. I don't know that. I mean, this is a worldwide epidemic issue that we're all facing, and that anxiety, and even I want to say, even sharing it with each other is so having it
for me
is so painful. But when you can call a friend, or I call it now #GiveGreatFace, because when we talk to somebody, that tone is beautiful. But when we can add in facial expressions and connect in that way, like right now, I mean, I feel incredibly connected to you. It's great that I'm going to be in studio with you, but I feel like we're together. Being on the phone, you lose so much of that non-verbal communication. So I would encourage everyone to do those Zoom calls, to do like a Zoom. People are doing Zoom dinners. They're doing.
Oh, we've done so many. Oh my gosh, we've been hosting dinner parties. It's great. It's like the cheapest thing you can do. You don't have to cook for them. You don't have to clean up. Nothing. You can eat what you want. Somebody can be a vegan. Somebody can be a meat person. Oh, they've been like fantastic. I'm going to keep them up.
That's okay. And I wanted to say it's April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. So I do want to bring in again laughter. It's so hard to consider, but there's so much laughter that we can at least try to bring into these moments, whether it's the funny memes. Today I put a post out of sweet memes that we can use, but also, I've seen that John Krasinski just started a Good News Network. I
love that. I love the Good News Network. Fabulous. I do that every day. And the Good News movement, there's a few of them out there.
There's so many out there, but I would love to say again, what we attune our brains to, they seek out and expand. So the more we're taking in all this influx of negative news by the hour, by the minute with the news stations. If you could take a moment to literally turn it off, shut it off, look for a humorous thing, share a humorous thing with a friend, and maybe take 10 minutes to do the affirmation meditation. It's completely free, and really allow our brains to focus where we want them to go as opposed to where we are defaulting to go. Those can help immensely. And I just wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, so we want to have you back in studio because we didn't exactly plan it this way. When we planned to have you on, we were going to be in studio. I wanted to take some calls from people. So we'll have you on. But I just thought this would be a great lesson and exercise to have you on at least now to talk about your TED Talk, about Give Great Voice, about the Haven app, so that people can have some tools to take away. And then if you don't mind, Tasia, I'd love to have you back in when this is behind us, God willing. So
I would be honored. I enjoy. I mean, you and I again. We have so much fun just chatting that I'm more than likely feeling like we could have a 2-hour conversation and we'd be like, oh,
believe me,
right.
maybe I'll call you after this. But Tasia Valenza. My pronunciation today is just out the window.
Worry.
But please look up her TED Talk because it's fascinating. I think it's 16 minutes. It's an easy listen.
Give a great voice and you'll understand all the concepts if you didn't quite understand it, how we can do it. It's a nice compilation of that.
Yeah, and I told you I was listening today on my bike ride because I listened to it a few times. It's just an easy listen, and every time I've listened, I've gotten something else out of it. And the Haven app during these sort of stressful times, just download it, take a look, and we'll have you back. I really look forward to that. And thank you so much for joining us today. It was really a pleasure.
It was my pleasure, and I'm really so honored to be with you.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being here for Deborah Kobylt Live out of my kitchen. I have a feeling.
And it's a beautiful kitchen. It's a beautiful.
Thank you. This is gonna be the norm, I think, for the next few weeks, maybe months. I don't know. I've got to find different places to do it. But maybe I'll go outside next time. But appreciate it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, but you give great face, and I want to hashtag give great face, everybody. Let's love each other. Let's connect with each other. Let's give great voice to each other. Let's bridge this social distance.
And let's listen. Let's listen to each other. Let's hear each other and listen to each other. But anyway, thank you, everyone. Deborah Kobylt Live. You can find us on Facebook, and then after this show, we post it onto YouTube. And then for those who listen to their podcasts, we're on Apple Podcasts or on the iHeartRadio app, Speaker, Spotify. Honestly, wherever you get your podcasts, we will be there. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Tasia, and to our entire audience. Be safe, please. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Deb.